I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Things are not going as planned for the corrupt Judge Aileen Cannon, the Trump-appointed judge who's presiding over the federal criminal case against Donald Trump and two co-defendants in the Southern District of California for Trump's willful retention of national defense information, obstruction of justice, and making false statements. And here is the indication that what Judge Cannon tried to do at first is backfiring in her face. And it's subtle, but let me explain, based on my analysis of the docket, what is taking place. So a little reported minute order hit the docket a few days back. September 1st, 2023. System entry, docket entry 142. Restricted, sealed until further notice by Judge Cannon. Then September 1, 2023, an under seal order. Then another minute entry on the docket, September 1, 2023, another system entry, docket entry 139, restricted, sealed until further notice. Now, why this is so important is that since the indictment was brought a few months back, Judge Aileen Cannon had been consistently striking the Department of Justice's under seal filings where the Department of Justice was citing CIPA, the Classified Information Protections Act, and where the Department of Justice, led by Special Counsel Jack Smith and his team, were also talking about grand jury secrecy. Judge Cannon continued to reject their filings. Remember these? Here's one back from June 26, 2023. Paperless order. This is from Judge Cannon denying without prejudice the government's motion to implement special condition of release. The government seeks an order implementing a special condition of bond related to defendants' communication with 84 listed witnesses about the facts of the case, except through counsel. The government conditions its request on the filing of the non-exhaustive list under seal. Defendant takes no position on the government's seal request, but reserves the right to object to the special condition and the manner by which the government intends to implement it. In the meantime, numerous news organizations have moved to intervene to oppose the government's motion. Upon review of the foregoing materials, the government's motion is denied without prejudice, and the motion to intervene is denied as moot. And then Judge Cannon attacks the government here and says, Special Counsel Jack Smith's team, the government's motion does not explain why filing this list with the court is necessary. Well, hello, Judge Cannon. The magistrate judge told Special Counsel Jack Smith after the indictment and at the arraignment to file that list. That's why Jack Smith filed the list that he did back in June of 2023 and did it under seal as well to protect grand jury secrecy, but you denied that filing by Jack Smith. Or everybody, do you remember this one from July 18th, 2023? Here is another minute order from Judge Aileen Cannon. Paperless minute entry order for proceedings held before Judge Cannon. Pretrial conference pursuant to Section 2 of the Classified Information Protection Act was held on July 18, 2023. The court heard arguments from the parties on the government's motion for continuance and request for proposed revised scheduling order. The court, Judge Cannon, denied the government's motion for protective order without prejudice for lack of meaningful conferral. And this is where Special Counsel Jack Smith just proposed a standard protective order, and Judge Aileen Cannon rejected that, saying that the government didn't talk to Donald Trump's lawyers enough. Think about how inefficiently Judge Cannon is running her docket there compared to Judge Tanya Chutkin in the Southern District of Florida and how efficient Judge Chutkan's running it. Judge Chutkan realizes grand jury secrecy, that gets filed under seal. Standard protective orders move things along expeditiously and efficiently. No nonsense at all. And here we see nonsense. I'm going to get to where all of this comes back to screw Judge Cannon, how she screwed herself, and specifically how the recently filed and lodged under seal things on the docket relates to all of this. And then do you remember very recently, Judge Cannon did the following. Judge Cannon issued a regular order striking sealed filings and ordering briefing. And it talks about how the government was filing what's called a Garcia motion for a Garcia hearing. So Special Counsel Jack Smith made a filing and did it, by the way, under seal to protect grand jury secrecy, to address conflicts of interest with the fact that Donald Trump's political action organizations are paying for the legal fees of lawyers who are representing Donald Trump's co-defendants, Walty Nauta, Trump's valet, Carlos de Oliveira, a maintenance worker who works at Mar-a-Lago, and many witnesses who want to testify or who would otherwise testify against Trump and Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, but for the fact Trump is paying for the lawyers to represent those witnesses, and those witnesses who have information against the Trump and Trump co-defendant, they don't know what to do because they're represented by lawyers being paid for by Donald Trump. So here it says the special counsel's motion for leave to file this under seal is denied. And then Judge Cannon says the clerk of the court is directed to strike. So delete from the record, delete from the docket, sealed entries 95 and 96. And then it says that Walty Nauta shall file a response to the Garcia hearing motion. And then it says among the other topics that should be raised includes the fact that why is there still a grand jury taking evidence in Washington, D.C., receiving evidence in Washington, D.C., after the June indictment of Donald Trump and Walty Nauta in a grand jury in the Southern District of Florida that was handed down, and then with a case now proceeding before Judge Aileen Cannon. And so you have that order, which takes place on August 7th of 2023. Well, Jack Smith says, okay, you're asking Walty Nauta and Jack Smith to respond to the propriety of the grand jury in Washington, D.C. You don't want it filed under seal because you keep striking and rejecting every time we try to do that. So Jack Smith's like, okay, I'm going to file it publicly because I'm just going to be responding to your request. I get the hint. So Jack Smith files a brilliant brief which talks about how one of the witnesses who was being represented by a lawyer paid for by Donald Trump lied to the grand jury, was about to be indicted, but when that witness fired the lawyer that was paid for by Trump and realized, wait a minute, the Trump lawyer's screwing me over. And when that witness hired independent counsel, that witness then explained that no, there was a criminal conspiracy involving Donald Trump, Carlos de Oliveira, and Walty Nauta to try to have me destroy surveillance footage. That witness basically apologized to Jack Smith with independent counsel, and that witness is not being charged, unlike Carlos de Oliveira, who was charged. Now, all of that may have remained under seal, would have been kept quiet and stayed secret just to the party. So it's possible these other witnesses wouldn't have even known what was going down, what was taking place. But it's now a public filing. So then the lawyers paid for by Trump then went back to Judge Cannon and they were like, Judge Cannon, Jack Smith violated grand jury secrecy. Look at what Jack Smith is doing. And Jack Smith's like, Cannon, you struck all of my documents that I tried to file under seal. So I just answered the question that you asked me, and it's not violating grand jury secrecy. It's just a fact of what happened, and I'm trying to show you the conflicts, and this is what you wanted me to respond to. So that woke up, no pun intended, Judge Aileen Cannon, and then Judge Cannon is like, oh crap, maybe I don't know what CIPA is, Classified Information Protections Act. And so now what's happening is she's conducting a lot of proceedings under seal. So that to me explains, whereas she was striking before all of these things from being under seal and she wanted everything public, she then realized, oh wait, I just screwed myself and I just screwed Trump over by inviting this briefing on an issue that Jack Smith was able to expose the Trump conspiracy to pay for these lawyers. And then what happened was also the witness, at least 3 witnesses who were being represented by one of the lawyers for one of the co-defendants, Carlos de Oliveira, those witnesses are no longer now being represented by that lawyer and have retained independent counsel. So now, and I think you have Cannon realizing, wait a minute, I'm going to get reversed. The 11th Circuit's probably going to take me off this. I don't really know what I'm doing. So boom, now you see these system entry dockets under seal, which is what Jack Smith was trying to get her to do from the very outset. And now when you look at her scheduling order, where she has her jury trial May 20th of 2024, and then she has these hearings on the remaining CIPA issues, because of the mess she's now created in her docket, her case is one of the cases now at the end of the line. And who swooped in? The law and order, no nonsense judge who's following the law to a T, Judge Tanya Chutkan. And she's like, great, Cannon, you screwed up your docket. I'm the judge in Washington, D.C., federal judge. So there's a clear path for the case brought by Special Counsel Jack Smith against Donald Trump for trying to overthrow the 2020 election. Clear path for that to take place. So I'm going to set that trial date, March 4th of 2024, ready to go. And now Judge Cannon's at the end of the line, doesn't know what she's doing. Now she's for the first time recognizing that these things actually need to be filed under seal, what Jack Smith was trying to do originally. And again, it just shows you that her corruption is equal to, and perhaps the incompetence is even more than her underlying corruption. But it's a potent combo of corruption and incompetence, folks. But it's all backfiring right in her face. And it's what happens when you don't follow the rules and where you're so arrogant also that you don't want to seek any other help or advice or acknowledge that you're inexperienced the way she is too. It's a real problem for her, but Jack Smith and others know exactly how to handle that. Make sure you check out patreon.com/MeidasTouch. We've got some great origin stories about Karen Friedman Agnifilo and Michael Popak. That's patreon.com/MeidasTouch, spelled MEIDASTOUCH. Check that out right now, and also go to MeidasTouch.com. Have a great one.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.